Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Selectmen's meeting of March 26, 2019. Roll call, please.
4 Selectmen present, Town Council, Town Administrator.
Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Lockwood, how would you like to do the Pledge of Allegiance for us? Never mind turning around.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Announcements. Mary.
No.
Peter.
Yeah, next week will be the town election. Polls open at 7 a.m., close at 8 p.m. We have contested races for selectmen and school committee. Madam Moderator gets off this year. Nobody's coming after her. Nobody would dare. The polling places are Precinct 1 is Town Hall. Precinct 2 is the Hammond School and Onset. Precinct 3 is also the Hammond School and Onset. So if you live in Precinct 3, you got to go to Onset to vote this year. Don't go to mine, it's empty. Precincts 4 and 5 are the Deacon School out in West Wareham, and Precinct 6 is going to be the fire station up on Glen Charlie Road. So that's another change. So that's the town election next week, Tuesday, 7 a.m. until 8 p.m. And good luck to everybody. Second thing is this weekend, I saw on social media, apparently some people who are upset about the ability of gay people to marry and LGBT rights and so on and so forth conducted a little demonstration here on Town Hall lawn. And questions were asked about why did the town allow this to go on? It's a public place, and people have the right to conduct small demonstrations in public places without having to seek a permit first. Now, if they were going to have a rally with 500 people or something, they would have needed to come to the town, gotten permission from the town administrator, had police, had this, that, and the other thing to deal with such a thing. But regardless of your cause, 4 or 5 people can stand out there, hold a banner. I don't know if they put the banner on the ground or not, which technically they probably should have asked for permission to do that. Apparently God didn't like the banner because it tore in the wind. But nonetheless, these people have the right to do this. It doesn't mean that the town endorses this, doesn't mean the selectmen endorse this sort of thing, doesn't mean the administration does, but under the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, they have the right to do this.
Thank you. Just a quick note. Again, the election is Tuesday. In the United States, we all have the ability to vote. Hopefully the people who represent us properly, etc. A lot of countries, people don't have any vote at all, or their vote doesn't mean anything. So this is a right people should exercise. It's been very discouraging over the last 10 years in particular to see the numbers of people showing up being so small. The only time we get a decent number is during presidential elections. You have this right. You basically need to use it because it's very difficult to listen to people complain when they don't come out and vote in the first place. Thank you.
I got one thing.
Go ahead, Patrick.
All right, so I don't know if there's any tickets left, but the Chicken Bake Surprise Auction is March 3rd. Is it sold out? Sold out. Sold out. Never mind. Thanks. Great. They bought them all out. We got to love it. Okay. All right, that's awesome. So never mind that announcement.
Okay, citizens' comments? Don't you dare.
Oh, that was good.
Board comments. Mary.
No, sir.
Peter.
No, I'm all set, thanks.
Patrick.
I'm good.
As everybody can see, I have a little ornamentation in front of my nameplate and everything else. There's 10 of them. These are fireballs, which I guess is the choice of people who want to drink and hide the smell of alcohol, etc., because it has a cinnamon taste, I believe. I'm not positive.
So you're told?
So I'm told. Does it? Thank you. I'm just, it probably goes good with coffee. I don't know. Now, each one of them has a little bit left in it.
There. I mean, I guess somebody could have a heck of a drink if they put them all together.
What's really aggravating is if you look very carefully, well, there goes one. In Maine, there is a 5-cent deposit on these. I'm hoping that we go ahead and move forward and come up with either a ban or a deposit because these things will not sit. One of the Historical Society members, actually, I believe our secretary, today posted on her Facebook page in a very small area in a short period of time. She picked up 200 of all kinds of these. This was sitting right out in front of the entrance to the multi-service center, which means we have kids and parents going to for school issues. They were not there earlier today. They were sitting in a paper bag that was broken. Someone obviously opened the door and they fell out. It's pretty scary to think of someone who's drinking this much, and they're all clean and pretty fresh and out there driving. So we've got to find a way to stop this. This is getting out of hand. Thank you. Board comments is done. Go ahead.
Okay, appointments. I have one.
Have one.
I do. Mr. Cruz, come on down. Walter Cruz Jr.,
Go ahead and sit.
grab a chair.
Military, so we used to say.
So, Mr. Cruz is asking to be appointed as associate member to the zoning board of appeals.
We've been given a letter. The board met. They voted to approve that appointment as far as they're concerned for recommendation.
Anybody got questions?
No, just
you.
thank you for applying.
Thank you for accepting me.
I think this is the second time, right?
No, this is my first time. I sat in on a meeting 2 weeks ago, just to sit in, but yeah, this is my first time.
You weren't on one of the other boards before?
No, I had, a long time ago, I had applied for a building inspector.
Okay, I knew you had something there. Thank you.
Thank you.
I move we appoint Walter B. Cruz Jr. of 204 Sandwich Road, Wareham, to the zoning board of appeals, an associate member to a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2020.
Second.
Motion by Patrick, second by Mary. Any questions? None heard. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 400. Thank you. You can pick up the paperwork probably tomorrow at the selectman's office. You'll have to take one of the ethics tests. The clerk can explain that downstairs, and that's it. It's all easy.
Yep. And you'll get sworn in by the clerk tomorrow as well.
Thank you.
Thank you for stepping up.
All right.
And I'd like to also recognize and thank our former selectman, Walter Cruz, who's in here today, too. Go ahead.
All right, next I have an application from the Church of the Good Shepherd, Project Bread, care of Reverend Dan Boehner, 74 High Street, Wareham, Massachusetts, for the use of town roads for the Greater Wareham Annual Walk for Hunger on Sunday, May 5th. And they're asking for, let's see, it starts at the Church of Good Shepherd, down Sandwich Road, to the Church of the Nazarene, along Route 28, before turning onto Depot Street, and then to Minot Ave, to Main Street, and then back to the Church of the Good Shepherd. I move we approve the use of town roads Sunday, May 5th, 2019, between 1 and 4 p.m.
Motion by Patrick, second by Mary. Any questions from the board? None heard. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 400.
Okay, next up is Power in Prayer Worldwide Outreach SJP Ministry. They're looking to have a secondhand dealer's license from March 26, 2019 through April 30th, 2020. And this is, basically they're selling some stuff. They use the meeting hall,
Methodist meeting.
Method Meeting Hall, and they're going to do some selling of some used products and stuff, I guess.
I have a question for town council. We have a P.O. box for this, that they basically rent the Methodist Meeting Hall on Main Street, this church, a couple days a week. Now they're getting some used stuff in from their parishioners, and they're gonna sell it for licenses, fine, but we don't have an actual address except the P.O. box. Is the P.O. box considered a legitimate address?
Well, wouldn't that be their address?
It is, but I mean, is that acceptable as a P.O. box?
The address of the property.
It's not the property, because they don't own the property.
No, they don't have to own it.
But is it a legitimate address? Yes, the postal service says it is, so it's fine. If you wanted to somehow specify the location where the activity would be licensed, that's fine too.
If you wanna add I think it's 495 Main Street.
It is.
I just wanna make sure
Yeah.
cover all our bases. Okay.
I put it
Motion
in.
by Patrick with the modification. Mary, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? 400. Thank you.
Okay, next is up is an application for a change of DBA from J&J Holdings LLC DBA Car Lot Auto Sales to J&J Holdings DBA Supreme Motors Corporation, 2371 Cranberry Highway. So that's the change. I move we approve it.
You want to also read the address so people know what it is?
Yeah, it's 2371 Cranberry Highway, I read that.
Okay, thank you.
And they want to just change their name, that's fine.
Any questions from the board? Need a second?
Second.
Motion by Patrick, second by Mary. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400.
All right, next up, I have, what do I have?
Town business.
Yeah, we have the discussion of vote to recommend spring, let's get this out of the way first, huh, this lease amendment,
Okay.
you wanna do that?
Yep, the lease amendment is for the Cape Verdean Cultural Council. Goes back to 2009. We had a memo of understanding. We basically updated it in 2013 to give them a 2-year time in order to start. Technically, it's passed, the project, and all we're doing here is strictly taking that same memo of understanding and changing the date to June of 2019, and they have 2 years to basically start the project, and if not, they have to come back to us by that period of time.
I move we approve the change to June of 19.
Second.
Motion by Patrick, second by Mary. Any questions? None heard, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? 400, thank you.
Next up, petition to hang a banner on the bump out near the Main Street emergency, near the main, near the Toby Hospital.
Yep.
Our banner is to be put up on the 1st of April and removed on the day of the walk after the last participant has passed. It doesn't say what the day of the walk is.
That's up above, May 5th.
Is it on the agenda? Because it's not on the letter.
Yeah, because that's the same as the Walk for Hunger.
Okay, so they didn't write it on the thing, but I'll
Right.
put it on here.
They probably had 2 applications together, and one didn't say the other, so,
I'm gonna put it on here because it wasn't written in the request,
yeah, write it in.
so, all right, so I move we approve that.
Motion by Patrick, second by
Second. Sorry.
Mary. Any questions? None heard, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400, thank you. You want to do the host agreement? Get that out of the way?
You want to?
Yeah.
Sure.
I think it came to us electronically.
Yeah, I think it did, I'll have to pull it out.
I sent it there, I made sure it went out to everybody. This particular host agreement is another marijuana facility. This is National Laboratories and Consulting on 4 Recovery Road in Wareham.
Hold on a minute.
Just as a side note, the redevelopment authority tonight authorized a lease to these people, because this is part of the redevelopment authority's
Property.
property at this point in time, so we
gotta look
did,
it
we
up.
did vote to approve a lease to them.
This is where I believe the Donovan School used to be.
Yes.
Just so folks understand this, when talking about marijuana facility, this is actually the testing lab. The Cannabis Control Commission requires that all product be tested by independent laboratories, and this would be one of them.
I think this is one of the 2 so far.
Yes, there's one open up, and this would be another one, so it's a nice organization to get into town.
Just so people understand, this is not a place you can go visit or
Yes.
anything. This is strictly a laboratory that tests product that is grown culturally and then sent off to the manufacturers, and they
Peter,
test
did you
both
get it in
directions.
yours? Because I didn't get it.
I have it right here.
Okay,
So it's electronic, but
we better,
it's host agreement between the town of Wareham and National Laboratories and Consulting, Inc. of Boston.
what he said, so moved.
You want to read the detail or not?
No, we don't have to read the
Okay,
details.
motion by
It's a
Patrick,
testing lab.
Second.
Testing lab's a good thing, they pay good money for people to work.
second by Mary. We also get money for that too, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay, any questions from the board? None heard, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400.
All right, so,
Okay, let's go into the meeting. We have people waiting, the spring and town meeting votes.
Can I ask a question on that?
Yeah.
When you were voting on that, is there anybody that has gone in on the request to make sure that they have all the safety stuff?
It's all controlled by, it's all controlled by the state.
Okay.
oh, and all inspected by
Town
them.
has nothing at all. In order to get basically certified by the state, they have to go through an awful lot of stuff.
Oh,
And they've only got 2 for the whole state right now.
There's
I just didn't know if
bonds,
you verified the certification.
We can't.
there's bonds, there's all kinds of stuff they gotta go through, so.
We're limited strictly to what they call a host agreement, which allows them to operate a marijuana-based operation in the town.
Yeah, we're not the actual state licensing authority, the Cannabis Control Commission.
I understand that.
They issue that, and they will be the ones reaching out for fire inspections and suppression systems and all this, that, and the other thing, so.
Yeah. It's almost, it would be identical, sir, to the Alcoholic Beverage Commission, ABCC. We do the licensing, but we send the application to them, and they approve it. We don't actually go in and inspect who the applicant is, what the facility is, or anything. They have to meet all the state rules. We're just an intermediary.
Okay, we got one other thing we should do quickly. What did it end up being, 44,000? The
Right.
transfer from the reserve fund?
It was, we did 40,000 even.
40,000, okay, so I move we approve the $40,000 request to the reserve fund for the takedown of the house.
That's from the finance company reserve.
Yes, to the finance committee, yes.
Motion by Patrick, second by Mary. Any questions? None heard, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400.
In case anybody doesn't know, last week I think it was, we had a discussion relevant to whether they have a bunch of houses around town, you know, they're all over the place, that are in dilapidated and bad shape. Well, one of them we're gonna take down on Cranberry Highway. There's actually 5 slated to be taken down at some point. We're gonna take down this one on Cranberry Highway, and it has some asbestos in it, so we have to abate it before we can take it down. So it's a little more expensive than the norm, but
A lot more.
that was what that money was for.
It did pass the finance committee unanimously, and it's slated for this week to come down.
So that's a good thing, so.
Bring your gas mask.
Okay, now we go to the articles again.
Yep.
Okay,
Please.
so I've got,
What do we have in the regular spring town meeting?
all right, so the regular spring town meeting, the only ones we have left, and I don't know if Derek's ready for them, and that is we have the recurring business. Why didn't we do something with that?
We already did.
We already did that, right?
We're on this road.
Oh, yeah, there it is, okay, that's why. All right, so capital plan, do you have anything yet?
No, that one we'll do as part of the handout. The annual budget, we have the bottom line figure for
Yeah,
you.
yeah, that's what we need, yeah.
$66,124,224. That includes the Upper Cape Cod Tech budget. That also includes the state and county assessments and the overlay. So,
Move to recommend.
Motion by Patrick to recommend the budget as listed by town administrator.
Second.
Second by Mary. Any questions from the board? None heard, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
abstained, 400.
and just so folks understand, we did do a substantial budget presentation beforehand. This is just trying to finalize the number going forward town meeting. And given what the votes may be from the state and come out of the House Ways and Means, it could change right up until town meeting. just
Actually, it could
depending.
change as late as August.
Okay, so union contracts would be next, and the last one, we're not there yet with that, right?
No, we have one potentially, but we'd go into an executive session first.
Okay. All right, so that's it, so that's all we had on the annual. The rest are all done.
Did you vote the EMS budget, I believe?
MS, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, everything here is done,
Mr. Evans will be happy.
yeah. So it's all done. So now we can go to the special. Now, the special budget transfers, anything on that?
I think we've got some folks here, so I don't know if we want to bore them with
Why don't we
my
keep-
stuff.
Yeah, you know what? We do have some folks here. Why don't we do that?
We can do the citizens petition article,
Yeah, let's do that.
and then we can do the one on the housing.
Absolutely. Let's do the citizens petition article, because I think Mr. Bessie's here for this presentation, right? Let's do that.
I know they love hearing my voice.
Forgot he was sitting there. I should get him down here first. Hello, Mr. Bessie.
Good evening.
How are you?
Good, I guess.
Patrick, you want to read the article itself since you got it?
Yeah, let's see if it's in here. I know it is, so let me read it. It's in the back of the
So the
book.
audience knows what they're-
Sure, absolutely, you got it. That's what we will do, we will read away. Okay, to see if the town will vote to name the property currently known as the Onset Pier, 184 Onset Ave, Wareham, Mass., shown in Assessor's Record, Book and Page 1700/226, to be forever known as the Harry C. Bessie Memorial Pier, and further that a plaque be so dedicated or to take any action there too. That's what we're here to discuss.
Go ahead.
So, go ahead.
Okay, I was here last week, and thank you for that time. And then the next night, I ended up going to one of the other town boards, and I have been out talking to some other groups. What seems to be an issue, or what people may be concerned with this petition, is that the naming of the pier to Harry C. Bessie, the World War II status of Harry Bessie, the word forever in the article, which would mean that if we do anything under that petition, it would be forever. And any costs or money issues relating to it. So I'm going to try and address just those 4 issues, if I might. The first would be to thank the Wareham Veterans Council, the Friends of the Veterans, the American Legion, the Wareham New Bedford Lodge of Elk 73, the Wareham Historical Council, and the Wareham Free Library, and the employees of the Wareham Town Hall for their help. Article 12 is meant for the town to show their appreciation to Harry C. Bessie for his service as the first Wareham Harbor Patrol officer. His complete dedication is shown in his reports and by the many people who still remember him for being there when they called for help. It is our intent to place a stone near the middle entrance of the pier with a plaque on it expressing the appreciation of the town. World War II status, when I brought Harry's name up to present it to any group, I said he was born in Wareham to let you know he was one of us, and when I said he was a World War II veteran, I wanted to let you know he and 2 of his brothers went to war for us and came back to Wareham and went to work for us to make Wareham better. I am not a veteran and do not feel I am qualified to answer the questions, nor would Harry want me to. Mere money issues have not asked for, I have not asked for any money, and we do not have any intentions of asking for any money. It has been brought up that the pier is in bad need of repairs and that some of the officials think that might be able to find a donor who would be able to fund a large portion of the repairs, and in return, he would want the pier named for someone else. Harry Bessie was one of 13 children born to Ernest and Lottie Bessie. Ernest went in business with Gus Schroeder around 1900, the business called the Schroeder and Bessie Oyster Company, shipping oysters all over and employing many Wareham residents. Harry was the brother of Freddie, Eddie, and Roy Bessie. Eddie operated a marina and fish and tackle business with Stonebridge Marina is now providing many summer and year-round residents a safe place to come. Freddie Bessie served for many years on the Wareham Police Department and ended his career as the chief of the department. Roy Bessie built Roy Bessie's Fish Market in 1946 and provided local fishermen a place to sell. He operated a retail store providing summer and year-round residents with a great place to come and enjoy the food. He served the town on many committees. Don't you think that a family that has donated enough, that is a family that has donated enough to the town? Harry Bessie was the first Harbor Patrol officer from 1961 to 1980. He served the whole town with only one small boat. He was available 7 days a week, all the time of the day. He would end his normal workday, go home, change, and he and my Aunt Jenny would go up to the Onset Square and sit with the people. If a call came in, he would respond to help the police or to take the patrol boat. Forever, when you hear our town officials say that they are looking for someone to donate for donations and are willing to name our town after them, forever is needed in Article 12.
Okay.
Okay. From the board, Peter, you want to speak first?
Yeah, Mike, I know you and I have talked about this in the past. To be honest, I think naming the pier anything other than the onset pier, I think you're gonna run into an issue at town meeting. Just from what I see on social media, people are used to onset pier. I think they want to retain that name. If what you'd like to do is put up a monument with a plaque, I think that would be an appropriate means of honoring your uncle. I know the town administrator, I've spoken with him, and he actually thinks the idea of naming the primary harbor master patrol boat after your uncle would be even a more suitable thing, because after all, your uncle drove the only boat at the time, and this way it would be the patrol craft itself that would be going out and doing the work that he did on the waterways. It would be sort of a movable monument, if you will. So those are just things that I would ask you to consider, perhaps in lieu of trying to rename the pier. I just think it would be as fitting to name a boat after him, perhaps more fitting. The other thing is, if you name, if we call it Bessie Pier, you're going to tell people who aren't familiar with the exact naming conventions here, if you say Bessie Pier, they're going to go to Bessie Park, just because people will get confused that way. I don't think it creates some huge public safety issue, but it might create a convenience issue for people. But those are just my thoughts on this.
I can appreciate what you're saying. I think as far as the media goes, it can go either way. I mean, there is a lot in favor, and there are a lot who are raising objections. I am not saying that the pier has to have a sign on it or something that says Harry Bessie's Pier. I think if we end up with a stone near the entrance of the pier, near the middle area, it would suffice. I think that anyone coming there, unless we put up a big banner or a big sign, which is not the intention, are still going to call it the Onset Pier. So, you know, it can go whatever way you want it to go.
Just in terms of, and for an easier path for you, putting up something like a plaque or even naming a boat, you wouldn't have to go to town meeting for that. He can do that he can do that. The town administrator would have the authority to take either of those actions. So, which is an easier path because you don't need a vote.
Correct.
Okay. Tony, any
No,
questions? Mary?
I don't.
Patrick?
Yeah, well, I get this, I was around here in 1961. I was a kid, but I was here. I was in Swiss Beach, not over Nauset, but I was around here and so on, and, you hear about things when you're young and things of that nature. And I appreciate people who put in the kind of work that this gentleman did until 1980. That's a pretty long time to have the same job. And I think some form of recognition may be required here. How we do it, I don't know. I think, we can let the people at town meeting decide how they want to do it, if they want to do it this way. Or, like you said, maybe a plaque with some kind of a dedication or something, that might be work too. But I have no problem with this at all, not for a second.
I'll have the town administrator speak also. But my concern initially was that we've made an application to the state for somewhere in the range of a seaport grant, et cetera, as the Onset Pier for about $5.1 million. So my initial thought was, I was a little concerned that we start changing the names, et cetera. It may affect how we apply for the grant that's already in place, that's been basically worked on. At the time, I thought it might be easy to take when the new pier is built and the new harbor master's office is built, to put it right there where the harbor master is, recognizing basically your uncle as the harbor master, whatever. But if you want to name the pier and they put a plaque up, I really, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter to me one way or the other. I just want to make sure that we don't jeopardize having a pier that ends up being closed down because we don't get a grant. And I'm just saying that everybody doesn't understand that when the town does something, it's not just simply to do something. When you have a project that's going on, it may or may not affect how it works. It shouldn't, but that was my only concern. At this point here, since everybody seems to want to do this, I think it should go to town meeting and let them decide. I'll have the town administrator speak, but at the end of the day, it's really his call.
Okay. I can appreciate what you're saying, and I had heard something to that effect a while ago. So I went ahead and called the federal government and asked them if they lent out money to the pier, whether a change in name or anything like that would affect their funding. They assured me it wouldn't. On the state level, I got pretty much the same answer, but not with great assurance.
Our grant, just so you know, is at the state level.
So, yeah,
It's not supplying us any money.
so, you know, I appreciate what you're saying, but I don't think it would be a problem. But again, if we're really fighting over a banner going up or something saying that it's Harry C. Bessie's Pier, I think that can be negotiated.
Well, I mean, if you're gonna basically put up a plaque or something there, it really, it's fine because it doesn't do anything. My only concern was for long-term for the town, that pier needs to be replaced. All the steel structure on these is collapsing. We're getting very close to having areas where the tarmac is collapsing down through, which means there is a chance in the next year or two, if it's not replaced, we'll see a car go right into the water that's being parked there. So my only concern was to provide a safe place. I really didn't care where the name got put or how it got put, but just to make sure the pier got done. So at this point here, you know, as far as I'm concerned, town meeting, if people want to vote for it, it's fine with me, and we'll come up with a way to make it work. That's all.
You know, can I ask Derek a question? Derek, would that be a problem to have a stone placed in the middle there, in that middle island, with with the nameplate on it?
No, and I appreciate, Mr. Bessie took some time, stopped in my office, and we had a long conversation, and I appreciate, you know, he explained some things to me, and we spoke back and forth, and, you know, we said that the monument, and he knew right away the way to my heart, he said it was no cost to the town, so. Yeah, so,
He's not,
That's true.
he's not kidding either.
He's not kidding.
you know, there's a lot going into this, and I think we've spoken about it. You know, there's some great stories about Mr. Harry's uncle, Mr. Bessie's uncle, and, you know, I do see, there's been a lot of heroes that have worked for this town, and there's a lot that work for it currently. I think about Officer Jamie White that stripped down and went into the dark waters recently
And
out
Gary
there.
with the baby.
Yeah, and it's tough, and it's hard for me to say something about somebody that's deserving. Look, I get called a carpetbagger every day. It may have felt like a lifetime, but I've been only here for 8 years. So
That's Mr.
I
Carpetbagger.
do think we've had a
That's
conversation.
short, huh?
I'm not one
Yeah,
to
it is.
hurt feelings about it. So
Thank you. Okay, basically, we need a motion for a recommendation.
Yeah, I mean, my recommendation would be to recommend it. I mean, I don't have a
Do I have
problem
a
with it.
second? Tony? Patrick recommends, Tony approves. Vote of the board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 500, thank you.
Thank you.
And just by the by, if you do work out something with the town administrator that's acceptable to you in advance of town meeting, you don't even have to bring it to a vote at town meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you could come up with a plan,
If you come up with a plan and you come up
could
with...
save you
with-
some problems
Yeah,
there at town meeting. 'cause
Yeah,
you never know.
exactly.
You still have to.
Because he can approve a plaque out there that, and a, you know, a monument, a stone with a plaque out on it without any issue at all.
But I think, Peter, because Mike is the proponent, you still have to come to town meeting and ask the article be pulled.
Oh, yeah, you just have to show up. We would expect you to show up anyway.
Show up anyways.
Yeah, it's
Show up,
it's an
Mike.
important day. Come on, you got to show up. So
Okay.
you got Madam Moderator staring like holes in the back of your head from the back of the room. She wants to see you there. So
Yes. No confusion here.
All right,
Why don't we do the one on the, I think
Well, should we,
it's housing one?
is there somebody here for housing? New housing units at Agawam?
Yeah.
Is that
we
what they're
did
here
that
for?
last week.
All right, the new housing,
We didn't vote on anything.
We didn't
We didn't
vote,
vote.
but I thought it was presented to us.
It was presented to us, but the people here also.
All right, let me read that one then.
Okay.
All right, Article 10, to see if the town will vote to transfer from Community Preservation Affordable Housing Reserve Fund up to the sum of $650,000 or any other monies available in the Community Preservation Fund to award a grant to the Wareham Housing Authority to construct 4 new units of affordable senior public housing at the Agawam Village Site, 57 Sandwich Road, or to act in any manner relevant thereto. Hello.
That's the Housing Authority, and it was brought forth by the
Hi,
Community
Jean.
Preservation Committee.
Hi,
Haven't seen you in ages.
no, you haven't.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Good. And how are you folks? Good?
Very
There we
good.
go.
Well, sad,
Okay.
but good.
Yes, we're all sad.
We're very sad.
Yes.
Yes, one of your members had a little problem. We were all at the wake today.
All surprised, that's for sure.
Shocked, shocked.
Okay, why don't you present what the article is for?
Bill Lockwood, Vice Chairman of the Housing Authority, and as you've alluded, Bob Politis is unable to be here tonight due to the passing of his wife last week. But what we are here tonight about is to see about getting a citizen's petition for 4 units of affordable housing. Is it a citizen's petition?
No, we put this on for
Oh, you
you.
did put it on, I'm
It was
sorry.
put on already, that's why,
Yeah, we actually put it on.
I
so
said
it's-
corrected, fortunately, gladly. 4 units of accessible housing and to be added to the inventory at Agawam, the Agawam property. That would be, take the form of two duplexes. It's been before you a couple other times, and in your wisdom, you've seen fit to bring it forward this time with a recommendation. Don't know what else we need to say about it.
I think last week, there was a question about the location of where they were going to be put land-wise, and I think there was also some reference to the possibility of having some sewer issues. I believe the answers were done. I believe someone from Community Preservation should be able to come up and explain those 2 items.
She's also a sewer commissioner, and I believe she's looked into that as well.
Yes, as well, so we might as well get those answered. This article actually is by the Community Preservation Committee, put in by the Selectmen.
I thought you meant the same, we did.
Sandy Slavin, co-chair of CPC. I did speak to Guy Campina regarding the sewer issues. There was some question as to the location of the manholes and laterals they were found. The problem with the backup was roots growing into the system. That has been resolved and taken care of. It is no longer an issue for Mr. Campina. As to the locations, I did have a picture of the 2 sites in the packet that was given from Housing Authority. And if you like, I can show you where they're planning it. I did not take copies, but I can show you the 2 buildings highlighted is where they're planning to put them. If you go off of
Indian Neck.
Indian Nick, up by the dumpsters that are in the back entrance,
Oh, yeah.
that's where those 2
Right there.
buildings will be going,
Dumpsters aren't there anymore,
right there on the back side.
Okay.
But they were there. We get rid of the dumpsters. Is that bow tie?
Welcome to the Alan and Sandy Show.
And that's the location, the backside entrance to.
That's a gift that keeps on giving.
Great, Nick.
Did I answer, the land was taken by the town of Wareham in 1962 in the question of the surveys, and it's hard to believe that we would have taken land without surveys. There's been several surveys done on the property since it was first created, so there was a question of whether or not there was a survey done, and it's around, I think JC Engineering has them, and we can obtain them if that's an issue. Did I answer your
I think that was
questions?
the question. Are those sites, those are good? We don't have to worry about the sewer underneath, no water service or anything like that? That's all been mapped out?
For, during the last phase project that we did, or a couple phases ago, the renovations there, JC Engineering did some survey of utilities, and so that the area has been worked over in fairly recent history.
Good.
The information exists.
Yeah, all right, good. That's.
Thank you. Tony, you have any questions?
No, I'm all set, thank you.
Mary?
I don't.
Peter?
Yeah, as I did tell Co-Chairman Slavin last week, the Housing Authority, I mean, not the Housing Authority, the Redevelopment Authority has asked the Selectmen to put on an article to transfer control of some town-owned property off of Swiss Beach Road over to the Redevelopment Authority, especially for the purpose of trying to develop senior affordable housing. And I did have a conversation with Jackie a couple of weeks ago about this, and had hoped, of course, to speak with Bob about it as well, but of course, this is not the time for that. My feeling is that while I personally support the idea of constructing more affordable housing in town, what I would like to do is hold off on this expenditure and see if the Redevelopment Authority, the town through Community Preservation Committee, and also the Housing Authority can work together possibly to try to develop the land over on Littleton Drive. We've got room out there for probably 40 units. I'd rather take the land and the $650,000 and try to actually entice a developer in to do something there. I think you get a lot more bang for your buck with 40 units than you would with 4. As I also mentioned last week, he's our consultant now for the Community Development Block Grant. He heard about this, and he was skeptical that you could get 4 units for the $650,000. He thought that might be a low figure. So my suggestion to the board would be to vote further study on this, because I think given the amount of money that's at stake here, waiting even 6 months to try to get this done is a more prudent approach to the taxpayer funds that would be involved in this. And within 6 months, we should have some indication as to whether the Redevelopment Authority can make something happen out there.
Patrick?
I move to recommend.
I will make a comment on this. I understand Selectman Titlebaum's issues and reasoning, which to me makes a lot of sense. The problem we have is we have the history of Westfield and others. These projects that we bring in that we have no groundwork yet take a long time, and
Yeah, that's what I'm
fortunately,
thinking too.
which people don't know yet, there's more money going into at the record deeds, et cetera, in Plymouth. And I was going to talk about a little bit later, there's going to be more money put into the actual deeds funds to increase the CPC shares, because everybody's complaining it's not what it was. So we're getting about $800,000 a year right now. And I don't personally, and this is a tough one, because I look at things from a pragmatic point of view for long-term, not short-term. And this is almost like a short-term, and for me, that really goes against my normal thought process. But I also know, since the projects take 3, 5, 6, 10 years to actually get into the place to be, that if they have something in place with 4, it's $650,000, but at the end of the day, we're gonna have probably in that 2 or 3 year time frame, if we conserve money, maybe $3 or $4 million, which is an awful lot of money to sit there and help any developer coming in. So this is
Mr.
one of the
Chair.
few- this is-
One more thing.
This is just one of the few times where, I really understand, if you give me 4 or you're gonna give me 40, I'd normally take the risk time-wise, but I think the development time-wise and the money's coming in and what the state is actually in the process of doing, it actually might work out okay. I hate spending, $500,000 plus of 4 units when I know I can take that money and leverage it and maybe get 30 or 40 units. But I think we're gonna have $2 or $3 million available to us when this project actually gets off the ground and gets going. So that's about a $20 million leverage.
Let me just say one more thing. Yeah, I agree. I agreed with that. In fact, I think that project is a viable project out there for 40 or something units, and I think it will be viable, and down the road, it'll come to pass maybe. but it'll take 6 years to get us there. It's just the way it is. I mean, it's the kind of the nature of those things. And CPC hasn't put any money into housing really at all. They've come, I don't know, 10 times, it seems.
This is our fourth attempt to
Okay,
get these
fourth
4
attempt to get this
units
through.
built.
And you know, at 600,000, you're building 4 units, and that's what it says you have to do. I don't see why, you know, it doesn't, if it costs, you know, $658,000, well, then you're gonna have to come up with $8,000. You know what I mean? So that's the way it works. You know what I mean? So I don't have a problem with it, and I'm gonna allow it
And
to go
if I
forward.
may
Is this
comment.
the last, I'm sorry to interrupt, is this the sort of last pad site between A&M? Is there any other future expansion plans or available locations that you know of?
There is additional land on the eastern side of the
Yeah.
property. This is on the west side of the property.
Right.
This is the last on this side.
Last on this side.
Yeah, but that's all treed at this point.
Yeah.
Hasn't been really looked at
Yep.
with any sort of heart.
But may I comment on the CPA financial component? We are putting $100,000 a year, we are now putting $100,000 into the affordable housing component of CPC. So it's not as if there's no money left once we spend the 640. But these 4 units were requested in 2016 for $450,000, and they weren't even put on the ballot. So this is our 4th attempt to try to get these 4 units done. And please, favorable and support it. These people work hard for something that is affordable for our seniors. Who's to say with these units coming in, we're still in the Boston grid. What is affordable in the future, I don't know, but we know that the authority cares for their people and their property, and it's 4 units we know will be affordable for our seniors. But money is there in CPC for other projects, and so it's not as if it's going to drain it by taking the $650,000.
I do want to make the point also that in a prior community development block grant, and also the application that that we're submitting this year, the town, and actually the Board of Selectmen, because we're the ones who determine what the allocations are that go in, that we applied to the Department of Housing and Community Development as part of the block grant application process. How much is it going to be up to? I think it's going to be up to close to $800,000 or something like that, or 700.
The most recent, this term, it's going to be 437,600. I think we did 260 previously, so.
So about 700.
Just under seven.
We're very grateful for that. Thank you very much.
Nice to hear.
Very, very grateful. I just would like to make one comment too, is that one of the reasons why it saved us money, because there's a per unit cost with the state, and that's, Peter would know that. And it's because we're doing prefabbed modular, and there's a type of procurement there that really saves a lot of money in the procurement process, because it's a modified procurement, not unlike stick builds. And that's, not only are we saving with the cost of the modular, we're also saving with the cost of the procurement, the wages.
Tony?
Are these affordable in perpetuity?
Absolutely, because it's on our whole land, our property is affordable in perpetuity. And how that has been determined, it's actually just the cost we sat and we figured out what our actual costs are to add 4 more units. And we came up with a number, so that is completely affordable to our area. It's not in the same, we don't have to follow we follow the affordability as far as somebody coming into our units. It's also just a per unit cost, so it's not like our 30%.
Right, okay.
Go ahead, Derek.
In hindsight, the previous ones were going to be stick-built, right?
Correct.
What was the
But
cost on those?
it was lower.
Yeah,
Yeah.
who gave us the quote on those?
We had it professionally estimated several years ago.
Yeah.
And these may wind up being stick-built too in the final analysis. I mean,
I know things
I
have,
would hate to commit to a,
yeah, things have gone up, I'm just,
Yeah.
Big time.
I don't know.
Well,
what percent.
when you buy
time right
when
now.
you buy modular, you're probably going to end up in Pennsylvania or Indiana or whatever, where the basically Amish build most of these things. And they're really better than a stick-built because they're put together in a factory. The quality control, et cetera, is quite a bit different than what people expect. And unless you're building a $500,000 house or whatever, which requires a lot of things, they are actually far superior. I've actually been out there, watched what they do. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, our
Oh,
neighbor.
They do some
just-
amazing work.
Yeah, our neighbor just put up a modular. He was saying $80 a square foot, but of course, he's private, doesn't have to worry about the procurement.
Procurement issues.
And he's his own contractor, so he might not be factoring some costs in there that
Yes.
the average person would
See,
need
one of
to.
the things is that it's never, and I've said this a million times, you've heard me say this, it's never any cheaper to build than it is today. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, every time you
2
wait,
years
it's
from
more.
now, it'll be more, 3 times, you know, it just keeps going up. And right now, while the economy's booming, the cost accelerates.
Raw materials. I want to make one more comment just for the public. Over the years, the Housing Authority had issues. They really weren't working at the best pace with the state to get things done. The facility really got run down well past what it should have been. I know this board, actually before some of the members even on the board that are here now, we used to not want to do anything with the Housing Authority because they didn't go out and get any grants, any money or anything. And we felt like we were throwing money away, helping them at all. And I have to say that with the current group that are in there, Mr. Politis in particular, who basically worked for the state, understood the system, which means you have to file forms and make reports and keep up to date, went from one direction, it was like -0, to getting much more money, and the facility's getting repaired and kept up to date quite a bit. And I think this is one of the times where we need to sit and actually go ahead and help. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I just want to make it clear, I'm not going to vote to support this, but that doesn't mean that I don't support the Housing Authority. I just think there's a better use for the money. That's,
I understand.
And that's what we have when we have 5 people, we all have different thoughts, and
Right.
our goal is the same at the end of the day. Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Patrick.
I made the motion.
I need a second.
Second.
Motion by Patrick, second by Mary. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
aye.
Abstained? 4-1-0.
4-1-0.
0.
We got it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for your hard work.
And thank you so much for the CDBG grant again. We really appreciate it.
Please,
You know that.
All right,
if you have a chance, let Bob know what happened tonight. He needs a little up.
Absolutely.
so let's
Good
start at the
news.
top. Budget transfers, do you have anything left for this? Anything for that? No, right?
No, we usually, you
it's
bring
okay.
that down to the wire.
That's all right. Parking fund program?
We've had an additional request for that, and that's adding to the parking fund program. I met with members of CORE, Mr. Fonts from the Boys and Girls Club, Ms. Werther, and some other folks. And that's to use the parking funds, some of them, to redo the tennis courts and basketball courts over by Hammond School, turn them into pickleball courts as well. So they're factoring in $30,000. Additionally, we do our normal operations, but as well, on top of that, I've been speaking with Mr. Buckminster. We're looking to upgrade the kiosks to instead of pay and display, where you go up to the kiosk, print out the ticket, go back to your car, to one where you do pay by plate, and you can actually pay as an app on your phone and everything like that. So that's additional monies.
So what's the total?
We're going back and forth on it. I would expect with the normal operations we do is about 80,000.
Okay,
So we, additional 30,000 for the, for the
110.
tennis courts. We do about $11,000 on top of that of extra patrols, seasonal patrols.
121.
Yeah. And then and then $10,000 towards, some of the street
It's
lights.
131.
Yep, so.
Sound right?
Yeah, and we've got roughly about 300,000 available. This is gonna be a big hit this year. I don't wanna keep on, dipping that far into it, but, you know, I don't think people realize what's been given back through some of the parking.
Well, yeah, you've given a lot back from
Yeah.
that. I mean, it runs, it has to do with everything on the waterfront there, so.
So, that's what I would go with right now. If there's gonna be any changes, I'll let you know. If you have any issues with it.
Move to recommend,
Motion by Patrick, second by Tony. Just as a comment, this is, so everybody understands, is a reinvestment back in particular, to the onset area for the parking that comes out of the onset pier. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500, thank you.
Transfer of available, it's to capital, you don't have anything, right? So transfer of available funds, you got any transfers yet?
From if you go down the list, the first one's a snow and ice deficit. That one, right now, we do not have.
So you don't have any numbers yet?
Someone find some wood to knock on. We don't have a deficit. And
First time in a
I'm
long
actually
time.
writing for the finance committee. If there's no spring storm, we won't have a deficit.
That's a problem, though.
Because every time we say that,
No, it's a problem because one of the things you get to do in snow and ice is deficit spend.
right.
As long as you spent the money the year before.
No, it's
Otherwise, they won't let you deficit spend the next year.
It's not the expenditure, it's just the budget amount. You have
Oh,
to
just the budget
Yeah,
amount,
you have to
okay. All right,
increase.
that's fine.
Increase the appropriation.
All right, just
every
making
year.
sure, because you can get yourself in a
Yep.
jam. Next year, you'd be like hurting.
So, hey, we could go buy a 2,000 ton of salt. real
We'll have to
quick
get
and take-
everybody a snow blower.
Take what's ever left in the nip bottles and use it as alcohol, and melt the snow.
You'll see,
All right, so why don't we wait for that?
yeah,
Before
and
we
then the
vote on
other
it.
ones in there, the next one you'll see is in that article. Do you want to wait for the article?
Yeah, let's wait.
Okay.
All right, how about solar pilots? Have you got those?
Solar pilots, we've got those negotiated. We're at $13,750 a megawatt, which will bring it in. The first payment would be $259,000.
It's funny how he knew that right off the top of his head, huh?
Cash in.
He knows
So, and there'll be-
everything money, doesn't he?
It's 20 years with a 2.5% escalator.
I move to recommend for sure.
Motion by Patrick to recommend, second by Tony. Any questions from the board? None heard, all in favor? Opposed, abstained, 500.
Okay, the PEG access receipts to the Wareham Community Television.
That's just this.
Yeah,
It's
that's
just a automatic, right. Move to recommend.
In
Second
fact,
by Tony.
it's so automatic, even though it's financial, I'd love to get that into the consent
Right.
agenda because it's
Yeah,
no
it
matter
should be.
what. So I know there's someone we can ask.
Move to
Yes.
recommend.
Patrick, by Patrick, second by Tony. Just so everybody understands, we're still, I'll make some more information on the rules from the FCC. It still looks like there is a real strong chance that the federal government and the cable companies are going to come up with a decision that we'll get our 5%, all the cities and towns, but that any extra that they normally provide will now come out of that 5%. So where they give us certain pieces of equipment and other things, as far as services go, those will have a dollar value, and they will come out of the 5%, which means your PEG access channels are not going to have the same funding available going forward. We'll have an answer probably in about another month. It's one of the reasons why WCTV is holding off on the expansion of the station over by, around the corner of the old town hall. Just for that reason there, because they're not sure where their funding's going to be long-term.
Do we have their contract done yet?
No, that's another thing, they're waiting on that, but you're working on that?
Peters
Yeah,
should know
good.
about
We
Actually,
that.
just
town-
need,
Town council, Rich, do you have any time frame on that? I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
We get the contract?
For WCTV?
we just need the payment
It's
language
just
really
the
at this
s-
point.
It's the normal contract, right?
Yeah, but still, I think town council has it as of right now.
Probably have it for the next meeting.
Oh,
Okay.
oh,
If-
great.
That'd be good if we could vote on it then.
Oh, that's great. Oh, okay.
If you,
Huh?
yeah,
Define normal.
yeah, that's true. You want to put it on the April 9th agenda? That gives us 2 weeks.
To find
Week after
normal,
the
I love
election.
it. Hey, there's nothing
good for you?
normal in the world of a lawyer.
Thank you.
All right, so, next up,
We
we
got to put a motion to go ahead with that.
made the motion.
Second. All those in favor? Opposed, abstained, sorry. 500.
Okay. A municipal facility stabilization fund?
All right, that's the, where we
Yeah.
take 25%
Yeah,
of all
yeah.
marijuana
So I
revenues.
move we recommend that.
Motion by Patrick, second by Tony. Again, this is taking marijuana money and not spending it in operation expenses for salaries, et cetera, but putting money aside for potential police station or one-time purchases, which is what we should be doing. And I'll explain for that reason a little bit later also. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500. Thank you.
The next one is, we don't even have to know what these are, but they'll be coming. I move we approve the rescinding bond, prior year bond authorizations.
Yeah, they're actually.
That's just a
They're in the
cleanup.
warrant.
Right, they're right in the
Already in the
It's a
warrant.
cleanup,
So, yeah.
so.
Motion by Patrick, second by Tony. Any questions to the board? None heard, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500.
Next one was the Trax Title Properties.
Those are the properties, to conveying them over to the Wareham Redevelopment Authority.
Okay, move that we approve that we recommend that as well.
Motion by Patrick, second by Tony. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Should that be an abstain for you guys? It's going to the Wareham Redevelopment Authority.
No,
I don't know. We don't get paid by the redevelopment
we don't,
authority.
you don't get any money from that.
Because I think we've done that once before where you both have abstained
Yeah.
on something.
I don't know if there's any need, though.
Need to be consistent. It's up to town council. I'm fine.
think you established practice yet.
Well, we've done one where they've abstained. I'm just trying to make sure that we just don't go back and forth.
Doesn't really matter, Rich, right? There's no money transferring from them or anything.
Really, what you want to do.
Yeah, I understand. I just want to be consistent.
Yeah.
Okay.
All
All
right,
those in favor again?
all right.
Opposed, abstained, 500.
All right, the next one, the last one, will be to amend the zoning bylaw, Finance Committee term limits. I move we recommend it.
Motion by Patrick, second by
Second.
Mary.
I can't see when he does this. So I'm gonna wait.
Well, what you should do is hit you in the back of the head and say, I just did it.
You want me to give you a tap?
Man, you
I need an audible.
An audible.
Information on this is obviously the Finance Committee is not here.
22.
Is that the Finance Committee, the way town meeting, the way our charter is set up, they're allowed to have 2 full 3-year terms, and then they have to basically step aside for at least 1 year before they can reapply again. It takes 3 years on the Finance Committee before you really have any clue what you're doing. I'm sorry if it sounds insulting, but it's not simple. There's classes you have to go to, and there's budgets, and it's not an easy thing, as Mr. Sullivan will explain sometime. So at the end of 3 years, you may have some idea what you're doing. At the end of 6 years, you probably are working fairly good. Then you have to leave, and then someone new has to come in, and the cycle keeps going. So by doing 3 3-year terms, 9 years total, it basically allows you to take advantage of that 3-year education process. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500.
All right, that's it, with the exception of the budget transfers, the capital, and the transfer from available
My
funds.
information is, I think Derek told me that they're going to print April 1st, so that's it.
All right, so next up would
Have
be
blanks.
any other town business not reasonably anticipated last 48 hours.
Tony? Mary? Peter?
No.
No, nothing from me.
Town administrators report, please.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'd respectfully request that on the April 2nd agenda, we put an item to accept a donation of $25,000 from the electronic billboard,
Which one?
the new one.
Nice.
The Robinson one?
Correct.
Do I get points for that?
No.
Oh, shit. So, excuse me. Ooh.
No, but now you shouldn't vote on it. Now you shouldn't vote on it.
I should.
Yeah.
I can't.
So if we-
You own billboards?
No.
Billboards own you?
It is an appearance of, I will explain to the public. It's an appearance of conflict because I actually physically went up to into Boston and testified in favor of that. So therefore, you know,
So what? That's your job, as a selectman.
no, but I went for the company.
That's fine.
No, I think I
You
should
did it
have.
for the town, you
You
didn't
did
do it
it
for the
because you
company.
wanted the 25 grand for the town.
As I said, I'll be abstaining on that one.
All right, he's abstaining, just
God
leave him alone.
almighty.
That's fine.
I'm sorry.
So moved.
I'm very nervous about things. What can I tell you? Motion by Patrick, second by Mary. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained, 1.
401.
It's true, we do have a watchdog these days.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
For
members of
those
the
who,
board.
for those who don't understand what that is there's a very large bulletin board going up behind the Robinsons' property that they were given permission through the Highway Mass DOT. I believe the board is visible in both directions. I think you can have as many as 4 different announcements on the same sign. We'll have the availability, besides getting a check every year. Also, basically, when we have an emergency or an issue, we can also post something on there. Thank you.
Plus, the usual agreements allow the town X amount of hours per month.
That's what I just
Yeah,
said.
it does Amber Alerts, all that stuff.
Not just Amber Alerts, but it's also, you know, you can advertise events. I mean, you can put the Oyster Festival up there.
Emergencies, they can take over the sign right
Yeah,
away
all
and
that sort
put
of
that
stuff.
stuff up. so.
Good stuff.
You know, they started working on the bridge, you'll really sit there and get to read the message.
Yeah, it'll be burned into your brain by the time you move 2 car lengths.
Changing the name to Weedham, that's all.
Okay.
with an arrow.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, much like any other business, when we borrow, we have to go out for bonds. Previously, we had our bond rating done by Moody's, and we'd come in at an AA3, which was the highest the town had ever had in its history. This time, we've gone out because of the borrowing for the new school. We've gone out to Standard & Poor's. So just if you looked at a chart, Moody's AA3 is the equivalent to Standard & Poor's AA minus. Okay, it's investment grade, it's good. It was a real boost to us. But since we're going out again, we had to go through the process. And Mr. Foster, the finance director, did a lot of hard work gathering data, putting everything together. You voted in a lot of great policies that have helped out the town. And I'm proud to announce that we moved up not one, but 2 slots to AA+, and just missed AAA rating, which is phenomenal for this community. It is by far the highest, and we were just shy of AAA. And part of the ratings reasons are, besides the economy, and by the economy, what they're talking about is what's been worked on. It's the town currently has several residential, commercial developments that will continue economic growth and attract additional employment opportunities. That's what this board and with others has worked hard to bring forward. The other thing is strong management with financial policies and practices under our financial management assessment methodology. That's what's been brought forward to you. You've passed. That's what our financial team has worked hard on bringing forward. Strong budgetary performance with balanced operating results in the general fund and the total governmental fund level in fiscal 2018. Strong budgetary flexibility with available fund balance in fiscal 2018 of over 10%. Everything that we've talked about, the hard decisions that have been made, what we've told everybody, it is now in black and white by a credit rating agency telling you that this is some fine work. So thank you very much for all your hard work in getting this done. And the highest credit rating ever for this community. Not 1 jump, but 2.
That is beautiful. Nice job. Can I just, go ahead, Alan.
I just want to make a comment. If you go back about to 2012, we were on the watch list, we were all these things.
We sure were.
The DOR, I'm sure that Jared and some of the people from DOR they've been working with over the last 6 years, even some Jerry Perry, who probably really hated us, would be amazed that we're where we're at today. I know. But we really need to thank
reciprocal.
the town employees, the department heads, everybody that works for them, and especially Mr. Sullivan, who's put it all together. We look at the numbers and we try and go ahead and find out whichever direction is best for the town, and we just push it through, whatever we have to do. But at the end of the day, this is a really hard job that was done, and I don't think I can even express my gratitude for what's happened. If everybody remembers also, I think myself and Frank Heath projected that unless we changed the way we were on 2019, we'd virtually go bankrupt. That the money's coming in versus our expenses would be a disaster in that year. And we had predicted back in 2017 that we'd have issues, which we did, but we were still able to maintain. But this was going to be a bad year, which it has not turned out because of all these policies and all the actual action of the town administrator not spending money. The easiest thing to do when you're a town administrator is everybody walks you in the door, you just say yes. The problem is you can't say yes to everybody because you can't do it. It's like politicians, when you ask them a question, they answer something completely different than what you ask them, as a rule, because they can't answer what you're asking for, so they kind of slide it off to the side and confuse the hell out of everybody. So we're extremely fortunate where we are as of right now, and we're fortunate with the people that we have and everybody we work with. Even goes to town meeting with a moderator who's here. I remember having, I think, a 5 or 6 night town meeting, and it was just absolutely brutal. People didn't want to come, and now we're at a point where we do it in a day, and the electronic voting could be really interesting how that works out for us. So I just want to thank everybody involved. Go ahead, Patrick.
All right, so one thing I want everybody to understand, though, is that when you look at our financials, we're in great shape. Everybody says, hey, nice business, you're running a great business there, everything looks good, bottom line's good, you got money put aside and everything else. Guess what, though? We don't really have enough money to do the things we want to do or need to do. People have to understand that. Just because your financial house is in order doesn't mean that you have enough money for seniors and for schools and for police and for all those kinds of things. I mean, you got to remember, during this process, we've cut a number of police, we've cut a number of people in municipal maintenance down to 9. Everything has been cut along the way to get to this position. So we're going to have to keep looking for alternative sources of income. And I know this board, we've been hard working at that, trying to find other methods, other things. The new committee for the redevelopment has been working hard to come up with ideas to do with other pieces of land that we already own and things like that, to try to bring more money into the community and help with some of these things. But just, everybody's got to understand, yes, we got our financial house in order, and yes, we get the good bond rating, and we all should be patted on the back, and Mr. Sullivan and his team should be patted on the back, because if anything, they're more responsible than anybody for getting it done. And they really deserve everything that we can give them as far as accolades go. But there again, let's try to remember that I know that community needs more and wants more, and we've got to keep going in that direction. And I think we've done a good job at it, and I think we should keep going. And I want to thank the board for being, working hard and pushing in that direction as well. And let's see if we can keep it going into the next year and the next year, and we don't have to be talking about going bankrupt anymore.
And I think one of the big things is, if you remember, almost 6 years ago now, the employees worked with the town through Section
Yes.
19 bargaining to change the splits in the healthcare rate. That helped a lot going for the future. And they worked with us to go to the Mayflower Municipal Health Group. So they've been a big part of this.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else, Terry?
No, that's.
Thank you. Next,
All right, liaison reports.
Tony,
All set.
Mary,
I have nothing.
Peter.
Yeah, the Housing Authority received, I guess you'd call it the next to final draft of the redevelopment strategy document that was put together by Frank Mahady, FXM Associates, today. It's a very interesting document. We spent about an hour and a half at our meeting before this meeting going over it, talking with Frank, looking at the various things that are in it. There's a couple of things that need to be edited before it's final. Once it's final, it's going to go up on the town website. And at some point, probably after town meeting, we're going to look to do a public workshop meeting, the Redevelopment Authority will, to go over what's in the redevelopment strategy. This is essentially a roadmap for the Redevelopment Authority to look at several areas in town. It recommends steps both to the Redevelopment Authority and also to the town at large. It's sort of the first thing you need to do when you come up with a renewal plan. The area that we've been told we should target first is Wareham Village. That there's a lot of potential there, but there needs to be some changes in zoning and also some infrastructure work to try to make things happen down there. So I just wanted people to know that sometime after town meeting, we will be holding a workshop meeting some evening. We hope a lot of people will attend.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to try and do this quickly again. We've been longer than usual tonight. First off, I attended a Mass DOT meeting in Hyannis end of last week. Had to do actually with the RTAs, which is your regional transit authorities. Of course, Wareham has GATRA. And they were talking about funding and the issues of increased service, running longer hours, running through the weekends, et cetera, which they usually don't do very much. And GATRA is one of the 14 or 15 total in the state. I did actually get up and testify in favor of increased funding as well. So hopefully there'll be some positive effects of increasing service over the next year in Wareham for all different areas going north, really can't go much farther east, but we certainly can go west and north, especially into Brockton with the VA hospital and some other areas like that, and possibly actually getting into transportation through Fall River and New Bedford over into Rhode Island to the Rhode Island Hospital Group as well. And that's where that basically went through. We had a Mass Municipal Association, what they call legislative breakfast on Friday in Mansfield. It was pretty interesting. We had about 6 elected officials, which were basically state senators or state representatives. And there was discussion about the different things that are bills that have been filed, and the review and the basic feeling of what's happening, what's maybe coming. One of the things that's really discouraging is that when we put in every year for that $300 million for Chapter 90 funding, they've already predetermined they're only going to give us $200 million total for the 351 communities. And unless we come up with some unique or some different way of presenting this, it just gets tabled to 200, and that's the end of it. MMA has done some pretty heavy surveys, et cetera, and the actual need per year for the communities to actually try and get caught up to where they are is between $500 and $600 million, so we're never going to catch up at 200 million the way it's going. There was a suggestion, which I want to look at a little more, of what if the towns and all the cities in Mass, all 351, would agree to put up $100 million over the 200 million, and the state would match the 100 million. I have a feeling that a lot of the cities and towns spend quite a bit of money of their own funding to do roads, et cetera. And I'm really interested to see how much money we all actually put together during a year to see how close we are to 100 million already. But it's something, it's a novel idea, and it's a little different approach, but we need to do something because it's just not working and it's not going to happen. The governor's promise, we'll see what passes, because again, he can't force it through unless, you get the votes for it. But they're looking for each student to actually use a number of $100 per student for education. And they want to increase the circuit breaker by $20 million. And we'll see what happens. The school might actually, during this year, see a change in their funding. So that may help us all the way around as well. On the marijuana front, the one downside we have, I've talked to Peter about it, they're reviewing the host agreements. The Cannabis Control Commission really doesn't want to set the rules. They want to enforce the rules that are given to them by the legislature. So there is talk right now about a limiting of fees, et cetera, over the 3% fee and on the host agreements. So we may have whatever the number is sitting there looking at us right now. I think we have 9 or 10 different businesses total. The numbers we have right now may not stay there. Whether or not they can legally go ahead and do this, the way the host agreements were put together by the original bill and everything else, there's some question whether or not the cities and towns have gone past what's reasonable. So we have to look at that. The other piece, of course, is the delivery, the retail delivery, and the social clubs. I wanted to ask questions on that because we basically did not do anything after the discussions at our last meeting. It turns out that the social clubs, the basic plan, that's one of the laws that are being filed, I forget which rep is pushing through on this one, is talking about on the social clubs, they don't fall under the same rules as the marijuana zoning that we have now. That was the first thing I wanted to get an answer on for people. So what we have in place doesn't cover it. The other piece is that they're going to go, as of right now, for what they call an opt-in, opt-out, which means every city and town, whether they voted for marijuana or not, still has that opt-in, opt-out piece, which means you're going to have a basically a ballot vote at whenever you have whether it's a special or whatever. So it's actually going to be voted on as well. So that means we don't really need a moratorium because you're going to have to go this process anyways. So Mr. Sullivan's suggestion and the other selectmen say we can hold off and wait is correct. And we should have an answer probably in about, oh, I'm sorry.
Speaking of the microphone.
That means he's, correct. It's not going to increase your salary, so forget it. And it's not a bargaining chip either. Now, with all that said and everything else, the governor, the feeling we're getting from the governor is that he's not real crazy about the social clubs, and I'm probably speaking out of turn. So at the end of the day, if there's a House and Senate bill and it passes, the governor still has the ability to basically veto the bill. We'll see how that goes. I've already mentioned about the television and the FCC. That's a concern for a lot of the communities on their PEG access channels. There is new bills on pension and collecting unemployment coming down the line. Increases the hours allowed to work after retirement for municipal employees to 1,200 hours. I think, was it 900 now, Derek? Retirement hours to work after retirement. I think it's 900. They have a bill in place to go to 1,200. So that's there. There's also new rules on the docket on disability, which we're concerned about because we thought it'd be an unfunded mandate. on on the disability changes. Unfortunately, the secretary, as far as controlling mandates, voted it was not an unfunded mandate.
That was the fire one, right? Was
Yeah.
that-
So we lost on that one. On climate, I mentioned earlier, the deed excise is going to go from $2 to $3 to have a special fund, have monies for the cities and towns for climate. And I mentioned also the CPC programs, they're looking to do stuff. The biggest problem that they're all looking at right now is recycling. The state has not come up with a program to figure out what they're going to do. Since the Chinese no longer take certain of our recyclables, everybody's looking at the same problem. And the projection at the meeting was that within 8 years, most of the viable places where you could get rid of your rubbish, whatever you want to say, will be used and closed. So there's some real problems sitting here that unfortunately it's the pay me now, pay me later. We're in the pay me later part of that as well. The other part also is the Mansfield and I believe it was Foxborough got together and put a regional wastewater program together, which they brought in, I think it's Easton and Norton.
Norton, yeah.
And it was interesting to listen to them talk about it and how it works and how they were selling space. But at the same time, one of the people from Mansfield talked about dispatch. And this is something that I've talked about before on a regional basis as well, which we've never been able to get off the ground. They are almost finishing up their regional dispatch. The two main towns, again, is Mansfield and Foxborough. And Norton and Easton have already signed into this. So this is about to go online, which are very much like, I believe, the one in Duxbury that's servicing, I think, 6 communities now.
Yeah, interestingly, Duxbury's service calls for the 6 communities still less than Wareham's.
Oh, I know, we have a huge number.
So-
But I'd really like to see if we could find a way to sit down with everybody, at least in the town of Wareham, and come up with something. Because on a regional system, the state is still funding, the facilities and the upgrading, the equipment, et cetera. And my comment has always been, if California can function with 2 dispatches for the whole state of California, Wareham can certainly, function with 1 dispatch from Wareham. So it's something, I'd like to work on for the next year anyways. I'll try it again. And new bill filed for credit. On septic systems and tie-ins, there's a new bill, there's an upgrade bill, number 2506. We'll need to watch that, because that may give us, people credits for septic systems that they have to put in. And I think that was it for last week.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry to bore everyone. There is something that actually is of the essence. It's a project that I've been working on with Mr. Buckminster and Mr. Buckland, along with GATRA. And do you mind if I just take 2 minutes?
That's the new trips?
Yes.
Please go for it.
I'm going to read out, it's the Onset Bay Association, Town of Wareham, proposed summer shuttle in Onset Village. GATRA would be running the shuttle, and it proposes beginning service the week of June 24th. And if you remember, that's when summer kind of kicks off right before July. It's like somebody turned on the spigot.
Yeah, it is. The sun just comes out and the heat
would-
turns on.
And it'd be operating 7 days a week between the hours of 10 a.m. and 9 p.m. So this isn't just about a shuttle on the beach. That's helping some of the businesses. We have the, Glen Cove Motel has just opened up with their restaurant as well. So service will be weather dependent, and GATRA will work with the Onset Bay Association and other local groups depending on weather conditions. The proposed route will leave from Hines and Lopes Field area, travel along the Onset Main Beach waterfront to Onset Avenue, then to Nanument and Cameron Streets, and terminate at the Bay Point Golf Course parking lot. We feel getting them connected as well, especially with the new housing developments, is going to help the businesses in Onset. The return trip will go through Onset Village as shown on the attached map. The shuttle will be able to run approximately every 20 minutes. That's a nice time frame. The estimated cost for the summer operations, approximately $45,000. GATRA believes that they can get some additional state funding, so the town's share through would be about $15,000. Look, we've looked at going from having the electric street legal golf carts going back and forth to trying to figure out how to make this run. And for $15,000 for the village of Onset, I think this is a no-brainer.
It is. This is something that, you know, Mr. Sullivan's been working on, the OBA, have to give Cat Jones, you know, credit as well. Even the Stonebridge Restaurant, just to name a few, people have been working and trying to figure out a way to get people in and around, and I think it's been 4 years now, we finally something. And that's part of when I did the Mass DOT thing, and I came specifically for Frank to testify, you know, for more funding. This is one of the projects we talked about as well, so it's great to see it actually there, and hopefully we'll be able to fund it for them.
Yeah, some neat stuff is the OBA's agreed to develop options for the exterior design of the mini bus, something with an Onset Village theme. So it's not just the bus, we're looking at getting kind of a really nice, cool village vibe to it. So,
Good deal. Another plus for the town.
Yeah, very nice.
Keeps coming. I'm all done. Patrick?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Patrick, second by Tony. Mary smiles. All those in favor?
Aye.